Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Jess from Handmade by Jess. Today we're going to make a Christmas pinecone wreath. What you'll need is a 14-inch wire wreath form from the Dollar Tree or whatever craft store you get your wreath forms from. Some felt sheets. I used this brown color. I got these felt sheets at Walmart. They are very inexpensive. I'm cutting them into about 2-inch strips, just evenly across, 4 strips out of each, felt sheet there. I'm going to hot glue them to the wreath form, and I'm just going to wrap them all the way around to completely cover the entire wreath form. I found that this material is pretty stretchy. So if you stretch out your strip, there we go, stretch it out before you actually start wrapping it around, it'll go a little further for you, and it'll kind of end up, all my glue kind of went in the back side of the wreath form, which is what I was aiming for. Not that it even really matters because you're not going to see it, but I think it's easier to keep everything uniform like that. So we will be using a lot of hot glue in this video. I used about 5 sticks of the long sticks of the Gorilla glue sticks. That's the only brand that I use for hot glue. I've always had good results with the Gorilla glue brands of glue sticks. Never had issues with anything coming apart or anything like that. It does really well for me. So I'm going to just continue wrapping my wreath form with my felt strips. I used about 10 strips to wrap the entire wreath form. So you'll need 3 sheets of the felt if you go to the store and have to pick that up for this project. So once we get that all wrapped around all the way, I'm going to go back and just pop a little dot of hot glue into all of where the sheets meet, just so nothing slips on me and it just stays nice and tight for me, and I don't have any issues, with the fabric coming undone from the wreath form. Then the next step is we'll get our pine cones. I used my scroll saw, and there's a picture of it. That's what a scroll saw looks like. I was easily able to, cut these pine cones in half using that. I was able to just, push it through to the blade there, and it just cut them in half. That is the easiest way that I have found to cut pine cones down. If anyone has an easier way, please let me know in the comments. It took me a long time to figure out that way to do it. I've tried, tin snips and all kinds of different ways to cut them in half, and I always ended up destroying the pine cone. But the scroll saw does pretty well there to cut them in half and keep them mostly intact. So what I'm doing here is I'm just laying them out and getting a guesstimate on about how many I'm going to need to actually complete this wreath and make it full, and just get a guesstimate on how many that I'm actually going to need for it. And it took about 97 of them that I laid around the form there. And I'm going to add 8 to that. So I'm going to do up 105 total, because we're going to be painting these. I'm going to use spray paints, but we're going to paint them. And here they are. I used white, green, and red. And I also kept, the other amount natural color, because I wanted all 4 colors in there. I wanted the natural in with the Christmas colors. So, and I used spray paint. It was a paint plus primer. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what I'm doing here before I even start putting any pine cones on is I'm putting my hanger on the back. It is so much easier to put your hanger on in the beginning than to wait until you've got it finished and then have to try to put it on there without, messing up the front that you've put together. So I'm just using a piece of twine. I'm gluing that down, and I'm taking a scrap piece of felt, and I'm going to pound that with hot glue, and I'm just going to put that felt right over the twine hanger there just to hold it in place and make it nice and secure, because this wreath is going to have a little bit of weight to it. So we want to make sure we have a hanger that is very secure. There, I'm just hot gluing the top of the hanger so it doesn't move around. I want it to stay completely still. So now we're going to start gluing on the pine cones. I'm going to start with the outside edge, and I want them to kind of butt up against the table there, so that when I hang it on the wall, it's going to butt up against the wall also. So I figured it would be easier to start on the outside edge and then do the inside circle edge, and then we'll fill in everything in between. And I'm just going to alternate colors here all the way around the whole outside edge. And I want to talk about the spray paint. I used a Paint Plus primer. I would take the time and extra money if you're going to do this project and get a Paint Plus primer spray paint. You get better coverage and you won't use as much. I used about 3/4 of a can on each color here, so you'll need 1 can of white, 1 can of green, 1 can of red, and I did do 2 coats just to make sure I got them from all angles. But I'm very happy with how they turned out with that primer paint, spray paint. And look here. Oh my gosh, there's a stink bug crawling on my arm. I was freaking out. I heard it flying around for a minute, and I was like, all right, where'd it go? And then I thought it just landed on the wall somewhere. I wasn't paying no attention, and then all of a sudden I feel like crawling on my arm. Those stink bugs have no respect for personal privacy, personal space. They dive bomb you and they attack you, and they are so bad in my area around fall and spring. It's so bad. I live in Ohio, so I mean, it is crazy how bad the stink bugs have gotten over the last few years. I wish they would leave and never come back. They drive me absolutely insane. So sorry about that. But I wanted to keep the footage on there because I had just started this part of the project. But here we are. Stink bug free. I got rid of it. So we are going to just continue going around the outside edge, alternating our colors of our pine cones. I do want to take a moment and tell you that I did switch my glue gun from high temp to low temp, because I found that with using low temp, it didn't take the glue as long to set up, and the pine cones, then would stay in their place a lot faster than when I was keeping it on high temp. High temp kind of, gives you that extra few seconds to situate your project before it actually takes hold. So with this, I switched it to low temp so that where I put my pine cones, they would set up a lot faster than with the high temp. And here I'm just doing the middle. I laid everything out, making sure I got the right sizes to go completely around the middle where everything would fit and I wouldn't have any, empty space. Because all pine cones are not created equal. They are all different sizes and, widths and stuff. So I just wanted to make sure I had, to fill in the circle there. And I'm reinforcing with a little bit extra hot glue. And now I'm going to, before I even start filling in the middle, I'm going to take my heat gun and I'm going to get rid of all of the glue strings. Those glue strings drive me nuts and I didn't want them to pile up on me. So I wanted to do it at this point, and then we'll do it again at the end. You can also use a hairdryer for this part. I do want to warn you though that if you're using a heat gun and you have it on high, If you leave it in one space too long near your felt, it will start to melt your felt. So we don't want that to happen, so just be very careful if you're using a heat gun, just to kind of keep it on the pine cones and, you know, not hover over the felt for too long. You'll melt it. So here we're going to start filling in the middle. I'm just taking random colors, kind of putting them where I think, you know, they should go. At this point, we're done with the pattern. We're just going to plug them in randomly. I tried to, you know, keep the colors sporadic. You are going to end up with a few of the same color next to each other, and that's okay. It looks good that way. But if you have OCD like I do when you're creating projects, that's a little hard to deal with. But you know, for something like this, it ends up so beautiful. And I had a few left over that were too big to plug into holes, so I took them back out to my scroll saw and I cut them down because there was a lot of little holes left that I wanted to fill, but the pine cones were too large. So that's what I'm doing here. I've cut them down again, and I'm just plugging them into the little spaces because I did not want to see any of that brown felt showing through or any holes anywhere. I wanted pine cones in every space, and I wanted it to look really full. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to just plug those in again, you know, just randomly putting the colors where I think they look nice together there. We'll just fill in the rest of the project. And then we are almost done. We have one more step after we get this done. This project is absolutely beautiful. I am so blessed to have the opportunity to have made one finally. I've been wanting to make one for years, and I cannot wait to make one that is a neutral color that I can keep up all year round because it is absolutely gorgeous. So gorgeous. I love this type of wreath. It is my absolute favorite that I've ever made so far. And you can even, like I just did there, take off some of the spines on the bottom. If it won't fit down in there the right way, you can take them off. If you accidentally broke a few off, you can glue them back on. It still will turn out very, very nice. And here it is. We have finished gluing all of the pine cones on there. It is absolutely gorgeous. Very stunning. And you can see all the glue strings. So that's our last step. We're going to take the heat gun one last time and go over it and get rid of all of those glue strings. There was a lot more than I thought there was going to be while making this project, but in the end, it was totally worth it. And there it is. I hung it up on our wall next to the Christmas shelf with all our little snowmen and our other little Christmas decorations. This camera, for some reason, I don't know if it was the lighting, it's really not picking up the colors. I have a picture at the very end that I'll show that shows the colors really well. It's absolutely stunning. I love it. I hope you like it, and I hope you give it a try. I really, really do. You won't be disappointed. And as always, I would appreciate it if you would like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that bell for notifications. I'll see you on the next one. Look at it. Look at that wreath. It is so stunning. Have a good day. Bye-bye.